Hey everybody, welcome to episode 61 of Carlton People. Today I'm going to call him an OG because he's been around in the comments and he's been around as a viewer for quite a while now. And I'm with Josh, our newest Premiership member. Mate, welcome to your episode of Carlton People.
G'day, how are you doing?
Mate, we're doing okay. We're filming this quite a few weeks now removed from the 2021 season. So the stress is kind of low and there's a lot
Thank
of
God.
hope this time of year. Yeah, even though like right now, like in this moment, we don't know who is going to coach us. But yeah, I'm excited, mate. I'm excited for the new era.
Yeah, same. We're in that part of the season, or well, for Carlton, like AFL fans, the entire year is the season. You got the footy season, the off season, and then the build up. But we're in that part of the season where we think we're going to get all these players, and we'll only get one or two of them, and then we build up and expect to make finals. But maybe this time is our chance coming up next year. But
I
yeah.
hope so, mate. I hope so. We're going to definitely dive into the group in a moment, but I've got to get started the way we always do. I've got to know, where does your Carlton story begin and how did you become a fan?
So my dad is a diehard Carlton supporter. He actually comes from England, and he was originally a Richmond supporter because on the boat here, my uncle made him promise you have to support Richmond to my dad and his sister. They didn't know a thing, so they just said okay. Um, Anyways, he went for Richmond for like 2 years, and then his best mate at school was a Carlton supporter, and then he got right into it. Then along came me, and just been born into it pretty much, but born into the crap era. I don't know nothing.
I feel you, man. I feel you. How old are you now?
So I'm 19.
19. Yeah. You know, it's crazy because like I'm 30 and you and I have literally like the highs, we've seen the same highs.
Yeah,
Like 10 or
2013 Richmond final.
yeah, like 10 or 11 years in our case in terms of the age difference between you and me. So it's a decade and like nothing
Yeah,
you haven't missed out on anything that I haven't seen in terms of success, which is crazy.
pretty much. Yeah, you've seen the prelim final, right? The 1999.
So
That's
technically,
like
I
the
mean, I was
closest thing you've seen.
yeah, like I was 8 years old. I don't really remember it if I'm honest. Like I remember flashes of the weekend. I actually remember for whatever reason, I remember the granny the week after a little bit more, watching it live, and I remember us kicking our first goal. But I don't really remember the prelim. I've obviously watched it, on video before DVD came out. And so obviously I've watched the replays and I know I was alive and I know that I was watching the footy, but I don't remember it. My memory pretty much kicks in kind of like Favola in the Millennium game, Murphy's. As soon as Murphy was drafted pretty much onwards, I remember everything.
Yeah, right. Nah, I can't remember much. I have like very specific brief memories of like I remember going to the footy in the early 2010s. Apparently, my first footy game I went to, it was a Richmond Carlton round one clash. Apparently, I was like 4 or 5 and I got knocked over on the way out by a random stranger. Don't remember a thing, but my dad remembers all of it, of course. But that was my first time going to footy. What a blast. What a great way to
Yeah.
start.
I'll tell you now, I definitely remember going to Richmond round one with the confidence that we'd win no matter what, which was great, which I guess Richmond probably have that against us now. Like their fans will go to games and be like, oh, it's Carlton round one.
Yeah.
It's an easy 4 points. So I do remember
Yeah.
going every year to Richmond and knowing we'd beat them. But mate, times are tough at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. This year I went to Richmond round one and I was going crazy. Before the game, I was talking shit to all my mates and all that. And of course, we lost. Of course.
It's just the way it goes, mate. So
Yeah,
talk to me
it.
about like your earliest memories of like whether it was watching on TV or going to the games. Like how far back does your memory go, even if it's a little flash?
I can remember I think it may have been 2009 or 10 against Fremantle. This was a night game. and it was very close, and we just lost. And I remember I threw my head on the couch and started crying because we lost, and I didn't want to speak to anyone the next morning.
Yeah, you were getting ready for the pain.
Yeah, young Josh didn't know what was coming within the next 10 years, so I'll tell you that.
No, he
That was the
certainly did
best of
not.
it.
Yeah. There's like a notion out there. I don't know about you, but like I remember when I was a kid, you latch onto players as a kid as opposed to like obviously right now we've very much fallen in love with the club and we love the club for what it is and everything that's that comes with it. But I reckon I started because I had like heroes. Like Kuda was my first one. I guess Murphy was the second one, and like you latch onto players, and then with that comes the rest. Did you have the same thing? And if so, who were your favorites, your first favorite players?
So for bowler, I loved Fev, and I was absolutely heartbroken when everything happened. And Juddy, of course. So those two, like my favorites as a kid.
Yeah. Fev had the one thing Fev had that I don't think Juddy quite got. Well, obviously Fev was around a lot longer and he sort of started his AFL life with us, so he was one of our own. Obviously Juddy came from West Coast, but Fev had like the character. Like Judd was a great player, but
Yeah,
I didn't really feel the same connection to him as a person as what I did Fev.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think, well, just with all sports in general, like if you're like the player is drafted to that team, they'll always be more loved than the players, no matter how, like if they're better, like, and we get them through a trade, the players that have been there that we drafted will always be a bit more attached to, I think.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
yeah, 100%.
I think so. Do you remember when Juddy first came to the club?
I would have been maybe 5 or 6. I don't remember too much.
Yeah.
But I remember footy cards. I remember how I remember Saturday, my dad used to take me to Tatslow and he'd get his ticket and I'd get my packet of footy cards. I remember when I got Chris Judd, I went absolutely bananas. I've still got the card somewhere. I've got it somewhere. I need to find it, but I went crazy.
Mate, you need to find that card and you need to save that card for a long time because you'd be surprised what they become worth as time goes on.
Yeah, 100%. Like just like I've got a few basketball cards and everything. I'm just sitting there, and like I had no idea. And my cousins who are younger, the Richmond supporters, of course, because they want to know success, got heaps of footy cards, and I'm like telling them, make sure you bloody take good care of it.
Yeah, 100%. So when Juddy came around, like for me, I guess it's kind of what we're seeing now with, Wiedering, Mackay, Kerno, and Sam Walsh and all these gun draft picks. I was just short, like, all right, Murphy, Gibbs, Cruiser, 3 years in a row. And then the year after that was Judd. I was like, well, no matter what, we're going to win a flag because like it just makes
Yeah,
sense. We've gone through the turmoil. We've been finally given the draft picks after they were taken from us earlier in the 2000s. And I was like, all right, well, it was really exciting. And it's kind of surreal that we're sitting here again through another rebuild. And I guess like right now, end of 2021, I guess we're still pretty confident that the group is capable. Just hasn't happened yet. What are
100%.
you? Yeah, like what's your take? Like, how are you seeing? What's your experience with the club? Like, what are you watching? What's your view?
So I think just like we have such a great group, but we've got like it's not the club, it's the people running the club, or that were running the club. Like they didn't they didn't put the football first, and I understand. Like everyone said it, like getting the debt and all that. It's been very important, but as fans, like the way you're also going to make money is by being successful on the field. That's the way you'll make the most money, and then you'll clear your debt. So I mean, we have such a great core. Like you look at Wiedering, the spine that everyone talks about. I think as the club, like they did say, like, and we heard Doc say it early in the fine. They kept on mentioning that F word finals. But we should have seen it coming. Honestly, like coming off last year, we looked all right, but there were we got to break into the 8. We might have a good team, but there's going to be 8 other teams that might be better than us. So I think this year was just a complete missed opportunity. Like the Geelong game, especially, I was at that game, and oh boy, it actually hurts to think about back. Like we literally never got excited. The crowd just stood there like in silence, and my brother was like, "Let's just go 3/4 time." Like, nah, I'm sitting, and it's just shocking, really
Yeah.
disappointing. Like to summarize.
I like that you stay to the end because that's something that's important. I don't know. There's something, man, I've sat through so many like 10 plus goal beltings and I always wait to the final siren. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, this is the price I have to pay so that one day it'll all be worth it. You know, I'm sitting to the final siren when we're losing, and that way, you know, when we win, I don't want to like jinx it. But
Yeah.
this year was weird because there were quite a few games where, you know, obviously we get fired up and, you know, drink the Kool-Aid and think, all right, this week, new chapter. But like there were so many games where, yeah, like they never really got going. And like we have a very loud fan base and vocal and passionate. And it was kind of like, well, you've got to see a couple of goals in a row before you can then jump on board and get even louder. But there were so many games this year where it just never happened.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. And like there again, it also shows that like we only had Harry for most of the year as our main like forward. So I mean, Charlie not being there, McGovern not being there. I know people have got their opinions on Gov, but I do think he's got the potential to be a great player still. But like it shows our depth. Like we had an old Casbolt, with all due respect to him. Who else apart from like our entire like aim? Like I don't know, Teague wouldn't have said it, but the players did it. Just bomb it to Harry, and it never
Mate,
worked.
it's honestly been like that for like 15 years.
Just bomb it to whoever our best forward is. He'll
Yeah,
get it somehow.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, who are your favorites? Like, who, you know, you mentioned Judd and Favola, but like as we move into that next era, you know, the Wiedering draft and onwards, who are the guys that you really latch onto at the moment?
Walsh, 100%. He's just like he's 21 years old, and I reckon he'll pull like top 5 in the Brownlow. He's unreal. I love Big H. I remember the GWS game a few years ago. It was one of the worst games I've been to. We got absolutely thumped. But this was when Harry was a bit younger, and he showed, I think he kicked 2 or 3 goals, and he looked great. So I latched onto him a bit, even after that crappy game. And I absolutely like. I know Newman. I know he's come over, but he like plays with like a lot of like spirit. I reckon. I really like Nick Newman.
Yeah, he's fierce. He's definitely fierce.
Yeah,
You know, and like obviously he got injured and missed a big chunk, if not most of 2020. And he didn't start the 2021 season until a little later. But like, yeah, I'm with you. He's a fierce competitor, and I don't know. Like, do you feel like we're fierce enough as a group, or do you think there's only a select few that are like that?
only a select few. Like few examples. Like we don't back out. Like well, this year specifically. This might change in the future. Hopefully, it does. But like Pitnet wrestling with that Port Ruckman on the ground for what 2 minutes. Stocker is like one of the only blokes in there that like gives a shit. I mean, he tackles hard. Not enough players like don't hurt the other team intentionally, but hurt them. You know, if you know what I mean when tackling. None of our players really have that, I reckon, except for like I'd say Stocker. Newman gives his heart out. Walsh, Cripps. I mean, he has in the past, and I reckon he's had the injuries and all that. We just got to give him a bit of time. But yeah, as a group, and I think this also reflects on our coaches. During the training, are we training to like, do they train them like hard? Like, are they not trying to incorporate when you go and tackle, you tackle to hurt, not hurt, but hurt, you know?
Yeah. Well, all we were hearing about, you know, at the start of this year and last year and the year before was like how hard they're working and whatnot. It's just so hard because you've got like at the time of filming this right now, it's a total upheaval of the board and executives and we've heard Diesel Williams come out and speak about, oh, the standards are going to lift and we're going to hold them accountable. And it really does beg the question, have they not been holding them accountable enough? If not, how did that happen? Like, how does that happen? How do you have a football club that's not holding the standards to a level that it needs to be? Like, I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, sometimes, like, you know, you can try your best, but like at the end of the day, if the coaches like aren't giving them, like, saying you got to do this better, you got to do this better, they're never going to get better. So like pretty much like, where they've never been held accountable apart from us being the fans, because if you watch fan cams, everyone held the players accountable. Didn't see a single fan who came on not hold someone accountable. Like it's just the club. Like throughout the year, it was all these little, like the podcast and all that. Focus on the shit on the field. Like, we don't care about any of this. Like, we'll care about it when you're being successful. Right now, we want to get to here.
It's funny because, look, I'm sure they're being held accountable, and I'm sure, sometimes we get a little upset. We're like, oh, they don't care, or they don't care enough. I know I say it. I'm like, oh, they don't care enough. They give up on certain contests, but I'm sure that they really do care, and I'm sure that they are really trying their hardest. It's just so tough. I think I feel like, I don't know if you do as well, I feel like because the history is haunting us and because we've been losing for so much, it kind of builds up, and it's almost unfair on the new group, like the guys that have been drafted in the last 3, 4, 5 years. It's almost unfair on them because they're trying to figure themselves out as footballers and as men, and they've got the added pressure of being a Carlton player, and they've got the added burden of the years of losing, and it is unfair, but at the same time, that's what's probably going to make it so special and make them so special. Like, everyone says that they've got the best fan base and the most passionate, but I really think we're up there with the most passionate. We're like psychotic.
100%. I mean, even when we were crap like a few years ago, our fans would like still show up to games. Like, we care so much. Like, it just, like, when everything clicks, it will be chaos. It will be absolute. I'd love to see Lygon Street when we win a premiership. I'd love to be there.
Yeah, it's you should be grateful that, like, you're over 18 now, because you can go anywhere, and so when when that flag does come, like the celebrations, it's gonna be a carry on, mate.
It'd be crazy. We'll go on for not one night. We'll go on for weeks.
Yeah,
it'll be fucking huge. It'll be so huge. I'm looking forward to it. If it does happen, hopefully it does.
If it does, it should happen. It should. Talk to me about your favorite, matches or moments over your life, the ones that really stick out.
Yeah. So last year, this one's a more recent one. Eddie Betts, the Geelong game. Just him getting the winning tackle and him kicking after the smile, and I don't care that he missed it. Just seeing the smile on his face, seeing that he's back in the jersey that he belongs in, not this Adelaide crap. that was awesome. Another good memory when Andrew Walker took that mark. I'll never forget. I was like 10 or 11. I got up and just screamed. I was like, how the hell does someone jump that high? It was the guy he jumped on a bloody step ladder.
Yeah.
And he was robbed of mark of the year. That was crap.
Isn't it crazy that as the years go on, it's his mark that gets shown, but in the moment it wasn't good enough for mark of the year? It's so crazy. Yeah,
exactly. Literally no one even remembers the other mark. I'm sure it was a good mark, but, Andrew Walker's mark. What did they call it? The mark of the century or something? I'm trying to remember. I think they called it, or the mark of the decade.
Yeah, it's definitely mark of the decade. I'm not sure if they do, I'm not sure if it's official, but it's the best mark I've seen in, my time live. Oh, Moorcroft was pretty good. That was really good early in the 2000s, but it's right up there. It's in the top 1% of the best marks I've seen. And that was a special year. That was really the last year that I remember watching them and being like, obviously we made the finals, we beat Essendon by 10 goals. narrow loss to West Coast in the semi, and yeah, like I said before, like at the end of that loss, like yeah, the loss hurt, but you kind of knew, all right, we've gone through the finals pain and we've done the apprenticeship. So yeah, that was a fascinating time. I like the fact that you brought up the Betts one from last year. Here's a good one. Like the history books will obviously say that he came back to Carlton. I really think like it's a really good fairy tale for us.
Oh, 100%. It was just like he was my like apart like I mentioned Favolo and Judd, but Betts, like it was just so great to see him back, and I was so heartbroken when he left. And I know it's a shame he played most of his like best football at Adelaide, obviously playing the grand final and all that. But just having his presence back at the club like would have certainly lifted the standards of all the other players, and being in the presence of such a great player makes everyone else better or want to do better, I think, as well.
Yeah, you mentioned his smile before. I think it's a magical. He's like, what's the word? It's he's infectious. Like he's just got like a
Yes,
when he goes near the
100%.
ball, energy's up and about. Fans like start
Yeah.
humming. And then when you hear him speak, and then I'm sure you were tuned in when he jumped on the channel and
100%
did
was. It was
90 minutes
fantastic.
with the fans. Like that's
90 minutes, yeah. That's how much he cares. Come on for an hour and a half and he's got 5 kids, and that's how much, like, I think a few players have said it in the past. Like, oh, well, Kuda said it. Without, like, the club, the fans, like, what would they have?
Mm.
They love and respect us so much, and it's just great. Like, especially Eddie. Like, it was just great.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like you can't expect every player to be like that. I mean, it'd be great if they would be. I think that'd make us feel a lot more connected, to the club as a whole. But any time that any player gives up is always nice to, give back to the people that pay for the club and pay for their wages and support them and moving on.
100%.
Yeah, moving on. Like, when do you see this turning around? Like, what needs to happen? What are you looking at?
I reckon within the next 2 years, and I've been saying to my mates, oh, give us 2 years for like 5 years now. But I reckon this time, like 100%, it's got to be within these next 2 years. We've got a great list. We're finally, this is so overdue, like changing everything off field, because I reckon that was a key reason to why we weren't being successful on the field. You got to have the right people in the background running things properly. I mean, I think getting a new coaching like panel will be great. Whoever the head coach is, I've still for some reason got a feeling it's going to be Clarkson. I have no idea why. Probably going to let myself down though. But whoever the head coach is, I'm sure like with Diesel there, David Park in there, they'll 100% choose like the right guy, and it won't be rushed. I mean, Teague, he was a great guy, and he was a great assistant coach, I think. And I mean, we maybe didn't give him enough time. I mean, 2 years and 2 COVID-affected seasons is not really fair, and it's been really cruel for him, I think, especially with the way he went out within the last month. But I just think we need to, like, in order to get this group going, because they are such a young group, as Judd did say, we probably didn't need, like, he wasn't the right guy. We didn't need a coach with training wheels at the time. Probably needed.
Yeah.
I reckon I was in the Michael Voss camp when we first got Teague. I wanted Voss in.
Yeah, I'm big on Voss. I like him. I like what he represents. But, I mean, we're going to watch this video back one day when we're a little older, maybe 10, 20 years from now. And I don't know, I'm hoping that, the 20-year-older versions of ourselves right now are looking back and laughing at the two of us now saying, oh, you guys have no idea. You guys were on the cusp of winning 5 flags. So
let's hope so. That'd be unreal. 5 flags. Am I dreaming? Jesus.
Well, you mentioned in the next 2 years, and that's probably a good lead up to my final question. Everyone that comes on here for their Carlton People episode has to give a specific year. Like, when is this group going to lift up that cup? Which year is it going to be?
2023.
2023. I like it. So you think, talk to me about, obviously you think we're going to win the flag in 23, but do you feel like this is a group that can win a flag like quickly instead of, usually I watch and like a lot of the teams go through year on year of a bit of pain, and then the pain brings with it the lessons. So do you think because of the talent on the list, we can rise up quickly?
I think it will be sort of maybe like Melbourne, maybe not as fast. I mean, I think we've got like Melbourne had like talent just sitting there and they did something with it. I mean, we've got talent sitting with us at the moment, but we just need the right people at the club. So I think it'll be a quickish rise. I think next year, I don't know how we don't make finals next year with the list we have. And if we're gonna get all these players, like Hewitt would be great, and Chera if he does come, like that would be such an unreal list. I don't know how we don't make finals next year. At least make the top 8, top 4. That would be unreal. But I think the 8 is certainly inside. I think anything above 8 is unacceptable for me next year. And it's a bit unfair for me to be putting these expectations in because it's what, September. We haven't even started free agency. So it's a bit unfair. But I'm like, it's just, we've got so much talent. It's just got to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't doubt myself because I'm with you. Like, I agree this list is very talented, and I start to think like maybe it's not as talented as what I think, but like, no, like it is. Look at them. Look at where they were drafted. Look at the talent, the skills that they bring with them. You mentioned it before. It's just, making sure that the right pieces are in the right spots, and, we find a way to have them all buying in, because that's really what I'm watching this year with Melbourne. Like, they've bought in. Every player has bought into what they've got to do.
Yeah, that's right.
We give one little example, like, young Brayshaw. He's accepted a role where he's not as flashy and, getting as much of the ball as what he used to. And that's kind of one thing I think we have to do. But also as fans, like if a player doesn't have as many possessions, we've also got to take a step back and understand that there are roles to play. But I guess we won't be able to do that unless we're winning. So,
Yeah, that's it. And it's funny that you mentioned like with Melbourne and all that, they finished last year, they finished really strong. And I was very disappointed with the way we finished this season because I was hoping we'd finish with maybe 10 wins on the board, maybe, and bring in the momentum for next season and just start next year flying. That's what I was really hoping for. Because finals, looking back, it was probably it was sort of realistic. I think finishing between 10th and 1st obviously would have been ideal. But I think we needed to finish strong this year. That's what's let me down the most, I think. And just with all the off-field crash, it's just been a garbage year.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to put it behind us and move on. I don't know. Like I say to myself,
thank God,
it can't get worse than that. But I've been saying that for a long time.
Oh God, I don't know what we're in for next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's good.
Hopefully, mate. Hey, listen, I've really enjoyed the chat. That's been the quickest 30 minutes that I have done in a long time. Really want to thank you for jumping on and supporting the channel the way you have, and hope you've enjoyed it. And this has been your episode of Carlton People.
Absolutely love it, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No worries. Go Blues, hey?
Go Baggers.